And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Starcraft 2 Tespa Collegiate Series, where we just saw RPI slam dunk after falling behind in the first two games against Laval to clear a 3-0 victory.
Yeah, huge win for them. And looking earlier, we were talking about where they undefeated. I went and checked on it. So they actually were until they met Harvard. And they dropped. Okay. It was actually a super close series. Harvard almost took them out.
I think that was the last day that I did it with Roddy before we went on break, but I can't specifically remember those games in particular. But yeah, it just such a scary team to have to go up against them, and Kansas have been really tough as well as UC Riverside. Probably still I'd say I would expect them to be the strongest teams left, as they've got most of the North American pro gamers. Yeah, but our next match coming up is going to be the second RPI team, currently ranked number 3, against NYU, number 12. And we were told, so the first two maps, I like NYU. Roddy and I have cast these guys so many times in this tournament. They have been awesome to follow. But the first two maps are going to be PVZ, and then the last three, we will get to game 3, but the last 3 maps will be ZVZ. So they are, we have a Protoss and a Zerg on RPI, so they're basically like, look, okay, these are the maps where Protoss is probably better for both of us. The strategies we like to use are better, so let's play Protoss on those maps, and then the maps that are maybe a bit more crazy, we can play some ZVZ in. So bit of mix and match here for this best of 5.
I personally would do the same thing if I had the capacity to play Protoss anywhere near where I do for Zerg, because
I think especially if you're teaming up with someone else, right? Like if I was, like you play Zerg, I play Terran. So if we were going to team up, be like, okay, well, this map's really good for this strategy for Terran, so we play Terran on this map, and then you have a really good build on another map for Zerg. And I think that's just a great way to use Archon, because then how do you even prepare for this best of 5 if you're like, well, what maps are they going to want to play?
What race are they going to play?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what map is it going to be? Are they going to be Zerg on this map? Are they going to be Protoss? We'll find out now.
Yeah.
We are loaded in the bottom left position of Dusk Towers. We have the blue Zerg Archon team representing NYU. Call me Steve and Grasscutter.
And their opponents this map in the red as the Protoss. RPI number 2, as you were talking about, the 3rd seed. They are Sherlock and Dark Zero.
Some PVZ action. Very curious to see what they decide to go for. I think one of the other interesting parts is that we have seen quite a bit of flair out of the players that are competing here. We've seen some interesting things. I think probably the coolest, I don't know if you have a particular moment that stood out for you from the games that you've seen or casted here. I think seen some carrier play and whatnot. I think one of my favorite players, Larry, was one of the guys that just did some absolutely bonkers stuff. And it has been, from what I experienced, the Protoss players doing the weirdest stuff so far.
So I was actually reading a bit through the comments when you were saying that. So you're asking about like the Archon Mode concept in general and what kinds of games it's producing?
Yeah.
In terms of strategies, I think I've just, with the little that I've been here, I've noticed I don't want to call it an overutilization, but more utilization of these micro heavy strategies such as burrowed roaches, right? Like, great example. Nidus Worm, Overlord drops, these types of things.
I think in this matchup, that can also go pretty heavily onto Stargate play for Phoenix, which in the current metagame for Protoss versus Zerg, pretty much everyone opens up Stargate. It's the best way to get some damage done to Zerg early on, while also being safe against any sort of mid-game muta play, but also early aggression where you just don't have anti-air as a Zerg. So the options are there. But that's just what I'm most interested to see. My Terran expertise is no longer applicable in this matchup, so we gotta freestyle a bit.
Well, ZVP for me is one of the matchups that I feel like changed a drastic amount due to the kind of negation in the sense of the Colossus. And also these, the reliable opening of Stargate. So I actually watched a lot of the SSL matches, just kind of making sure I understood this matchup, because it's always been one of my favorites. I think ZVT is my favorite to play, because I have always really enjoyed like the mechanical nature of the matchup. But ZVP is so full of just these, these racially different mind games that I've always thoroughly enjoyed, and hopefully we see some of that brought to fruition here. But it looks like so far in the match we're going to have kind of standard openings, but that by no means does that mean that the whole game will be standard? And maybe we'll see some crazy stuff. You know, you're talking about seeing carriers. I'd love to see it. And Oracle is a little less common than the Phoenix opening. It does rely, of course, on like getting some kind of damage in, but I love how the Oracle kind of holds into late game utility now in Legacy of the Void in a huge way.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get damage done with it, we've seen some great stasis work plays actually already in the Tespa Collegiate Series and WCS. It's actually been popping up. I think you brought up SSL. I'm thinking about was that PvP on Orbital Shipyard had one. I think it was like Zest versus Hero or something. Was one of the, was maybe SOS. Anyway, stasis wards are awesome and definitely one of the best ways to keep an Oracle useful. So some Lings get put out on the map, just 12, maybe trying to check for a third base, a deny. And I do not believe there are any Spore Crawlers. So if this Oracle just goes in, just right-clicks on drones, you can get up to 9, 10 if you focus fire properly.
Yeah, the Spore really, really late. The timing. I'm wondering here, I mean, we weren't watching the builds that closely. Was there something that RPI did to get this Oracle out faster? Did they cut a corner? Mothership core at least skip, but that's, you know, not too crazy when you're going for Oracle. Either way, lots of drones going down. Spore Crawler nearly complete here. One more drone should fall, and then we should see this Oracle head on out.
Yeah, the delay on the Mothership core is somewhat notable, as we do see a lot of early aggression, but I think the fast Stalker as well is almost a tell sometimes. It's like, okay, well, I want to get this instead of an Adept to deal with Lings. So the Stalker is going to kill the Overlord to prevent you from scouting, but you know that alone could have possibly been what they needed.
I wanted to actually point out earlier what I saw that was so weird to me was this Void Ray follow-up.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, talk about weird stuff. Okay.
So
continue.
Said the Stargate opening, right? Like, it could still get weird, and it does. This is gonna get super weird. I'm having like flashbacks to Wings of Liberty when I remember like seeing people go for these builds where you try to sneak Void Rays around the side of the map to snipe a lair, something to that effect.
That was awesome, dude.
Hey man, it's gonna happen here, I think. I do not expect Void Rays to be gone for and then to kind of walk them across the map, you know, like Zealot Archon Void Ray style.
Oh God,
the
Adept, no. What?
You're just too far back.
Yeah, your shoulders weren't broad enough. The Oracle has to come here
Work
and
out
defend.
more.
Exactly. That's why they put the big buff Zealots there. Oh boy, so the Zealots. What do you do? The Zealots.
I heard big buff salads. Popeye?
The Zealots, man.
Bringing that into the joke? All right. Well, Zerglings are getting way too much damage, and for being Zerglings with an adept there.
8 probes is nice. They also have, this information that they get from this is also so important. You see 3 star. It's just oracles.
What?
Yo, I played someone that did this to me on ladder when I was playing Zerg.
Me too, only once, but
I don't play Zerg, so I felt like this is, it's like one of those things. You're like, okay, it's like a rite of passage. You lose to mass oracle. But apparently there are people that actually do this. You have the Void Ray. Bad boy's got 4 kills so far. He's an Overlord murderer.
They are going for Hydras, Queens, Spore Crawlers, Spire.
They're going for double.
Right.
Double Hydraless Den.
That's going to lessen their Hydra count, first off.
Well, I mean, they could go into Lurkers and get the Hydra upgrade at the same time. I don't know if this was intentional.
Which will also lessen their Hydra count. Just say,
Yeah. Makes the Lurker follow-up faster, but I don't think that ground units are their problem right now.
I don't like this for NYU. This is the worst possible thing that they... okay, yes, there's worse, right? Like Zergling only or something, but...
It's rough. It's going to be difficult because Oracles do bonus. If this was Void Rays, Hydras is great. Oracles wreck those, and... Oracles actually have a surprisingly high amount of damage output if you leave them unchecked. So I think we're about to see, because from my experience, I was like, oh, Spore Crawler will be totally fine. No, Spore Crawler is not enough against this many. You need like 3, 4, some. They're just going to kill the Hydra. Well, you know what? Having 2 Hydra Dens is suddenly the greatest idea they've ever had.
All right, coming down here, there's Spore Crawler, so that's going to give free reign. It looks like they're going to target the other Hydra Den, but nonetheless, 19 Hydras have been made. That's not going to kill this, but with the Queens, oh god, these Queens cannot fall. This is everything for NYU. The Hydras are just spawning. They lose these Queens. I think they lose the game. But the Hydras arrive in time.
These
Oracles are low.
These Oracles are so ridiculous. So they kill 2 Hydra Dens in exchange for a few of their Oracles. So 3 Oracles in exchange for the Queens, a couple drones. I would have liked to see them go ham on the drones rather than killing a second Hydra Den, but...
I'm actually surprised that the game isn't over, and I think... and maybe I'm just a little off point here. It's such an unconventional build, of course, but I'm a little surprised to see when those Oracles left, a lot of shield on all of them, and it didn't seem like the oracles were microed back to prevent them from dying, and I wonder if that was a bit of a mistake out of RPI. I wish I could go back and kind of look and see if that happened. But
it is tough when you just consider the oracle's attack range isn't super long either, so you kind of have to be all up in that. These Hydralisks just deal so much damage when you let them fight. So what is the follow-up? They are not building more oracles. They're just going to chill. They only have only four oracles. I mean, they could plant a lot of stasis wards, maybe try to snipe some more units. Looks like some Hydras are here for the taking. And, oop, the highest energy one almost dies. But I guess the biggest thing is they can't go lurkers, right? But this really shouldn't be enough to stop this. 2 pylons overcharged. They have enough energy for 2 more, but one of the pylons does die.
Oracles are coming home. That at least is going to give RPI a chance at holding this.
If they commit, that should help a lot. They're on their way to charge. They're going to try to use Zealots to close the gap with those Hydras, but oop.
Oh, God.
Oracle does die, and this is it. The pylon overcharges, tries to drop a stasis ward, but not enough time. It does get killed while building. Pylon is dead. And, I mean, I think these Hydras should be able to do it.
Oh, I think another Zealot warp in here. Are there Zergling reinforcements on the way? No. Okay.
I mean, charge is really important too, and it's not done yet. That 8 damage on contact with the Hydralisks is so important.
A fantastic point.
Another thing in Legacy of the Void, but I mean, these Hydras, with this many of them, like, you are not going to close the gap with just slow Zealots. This third base is dead, and I got a feeling that our Protoss team from RPI might be dead too here. This is just so much. The Oracles are going to come back in with the Zealots, with the Adepts, but they are glass cannons, and they shatter like windows.
Think that might be it. NYU going to stutter step their way up the ramp and up to victory now. And I mean, I want to like analyze how we got to this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, they opened the game with like 7 or 8 Oracles. And then Hydralisks came out. You know, the funny thing is, really, all it came down to was if that Void Ray had been able to supply block them when killing those Overlords, and then you kill both Hydra Dens before you can actually start any Hydralisks, then I think it's game over. You know, you've got a really weird game, then it kind of works. Void Ray supply blocks, then the Oracles kill, but now, there's just not enough. Just too little, too late. This army's going to continue to plow its way forward, and GG is called. It's a
crazy fun game.
Weird
Two separate words. Because it was, I want to emphasize how crazy it was. It's fun trying to analyze those. I'm really excited to kind of take a peek over the replay.
But see, that was a kind of cool, weird game. And the thing is, if they just pulled those Oracles back sooner, they actually could have dropped like 4 or 5 stasis wards across the top of that, and maybe been able to use that to buy time for that charge to finish without losing everything else. Yeah. But
see, when I got hit by this build, it was Heart of the Swarm. You make a really interesting point about the versatility of Oracles as you move throughout the game now. So here's this moment. I really want to watch these Oracles.
Yeah, so like they come up, we see the first few of them die, and when the Hydras show up, they just go back and chill. Like if they could have placed them, now they come back when it's already too late. Like if that Stasis Sword finishes, you've got all the Hydras locked down, right? So
it looks like they actually turned on the Oracles and they're not attacking with them. Just a couple of so much going on in those fights.
It's a hectic position to be in.
Yeah.
That's, and then the Hydras just hammered their way through, slowly ripped apart the Great Wall and annihilated some Protoss.
The Great Wall. I love actually how in Legacy of the Void that's less of a thing as a Zerg player, you know.
Yeah.
The Great Walls were so difficult to be able to attack into.
3 cannons and well, I mean, to be fair, that might not have even been a terrible thing to try to set up just because they didn't have they did cancel the Lurker Den. So if you don't have Lurkers or Ravagers, suddenly those defensive structures are actually really, really important. But unfortunately for them, they go down 0-1. We are in the lobby right now for Game 2. It'll be on Orbital Shipyard. Most Protoss players I talk to say, okay, they like Orbital Shipyard a lot for PvZ. I'd asked Zergs about this. I'm like, why exactly is this map kind of difficult for Zerg against Protoss? Like, man, just taking the third base, or the fourth base, excuse me, because the way the Protoss can force field off the third, if you break down the rocks and go, or you take the really far away one, so makes Warp Prisms a lot scarier. So,
Warp Prisms on this map, actually, we've seen utilized to, like, unprecedented levels of effectiveness.
Yeah. There's a good amount of airspace behind the main, a bit around the natural, between the main and the natural, and obviously behind that fourth and third base area, there is a lot. So right now, we are just getting ready to go into this. One of the players appears to be having just a small internet issue, so they'll be back into it as soon as possible, trying to join the lobby. And then they play ZVZ for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing to think about. It's a weird to think that you might be like, you know what, even if we lose the first 2 maps of the Protoss, I think our Zerg is good enough that we can just look at it like a whole new series, and then just win 3-0. But we have all the players in the lobby now, so we should be good to go any second.
That is really interesting. Having a race switch is kind of your reset button.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, oh man, we're gonna have to deal with a Hydra Ling push like that again. It's like, no, we're playing a different game. I mean,
yeah.
For all intents and purposes, playing different matchups in StarCraft, like if you compare like the thought processes that you have to put in and how you have to react and scout different things, it pretty much is like playing a whole different game.
And it also, like you mentioned, entirely resets the demotivation factor regarding losing to certain strategies or builds.
Yeah.
So
we are just about ready now to get into the next game of this best of 5. We have a nice solid series here in front of us with our boys in blue leading 1-0 in the top right. They are representing NYU. They are Grasscutter and Call Me Steve.
And in the bottom right from RPI, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Sherlock, and Dark Zero.
Hopefully ready to solve the case of PVZ on Orbital Shipyard. Perhaps the tools of the trade to be a Warp Prism, as we've mentioned, or maybe another 8 Oracles. I don't know. Anything goes, I suppose. Pretty quick probe scout as well, just going to make sure there's nothing super cheeky going on. They take a gas as well, so hatch first. Nothing crazy is going to happen at the start of this game yet, at least. I mean, unless you see like another 3 gates get dropped here before the Cyber Core, then I'm just like, what? But
Proxy Oracle. Now, if anything on this map, I actually would expect DTs, Dark Templar, because they scale so well into the late stages of the game because of the strength of that War Prism that we were talking about earlier. But, the fact that it is stronger makes it slightly more predictable, which is one of my favorite things about map diversity. I know there's a lot of discussions going on, and just kind of, is having the possibility for really unique strategies on various maps something that is really beneficial in a huge way.
Like how much of a good or a bad thing can it be if it's good enough that you expect it, so you kind of prepare for it, so it's not as effective as it would otherwise be.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. And an Orbital Shipyard, it's definitely one of those maps where you have to consider a lot of different ways. I mean, you have a lot of space that you can drop up here, blink Stalker Micro up and down. Of course, in the later stages, a couple force fields can block this, or just being caught off guard, your army's funneling through a tight choke point. So you have to be very careful, but very heavy macro opening out of both sides. The Nexus is on the way before the second gas, and now they are set up on both geysers. Now they're getting the Cybernetics core. Warp Gate will begin. Could be a Stargate again. They are going to go for the Stalker and Warp Gate first, though, so it's going to delay whatever their tech choice is. And the Zerg, I mean, they're just right up 3 bases. No worries.
No Mothership Core quite yet, which is really beneficial on this map with the ability to take kind of this low ground expand with minimal units accompanied by a Mothership Core, but, I mean, it's absolutely not a necessity. Robo's going to go down first.
Okay.
We'll just kind of see how things pan out. What's on your mind with the Robo?
So I'm already thinking about the Warp Prism stuff that you mentioned.
Okay.
Because Protoss players tell me that they like to open Stargate, and the reason why almost every Protoss opens Stargate is because, it's very risky to try and get damage done to the Zerg, because they all seem to agree you don't want to let the Zerg just sit there if they play this style. You want to force them to either invest in the Spore Crawlers, kill drones with Phoenix or something. So I'm feeling that Prism that you mentioned. They could open up with something really weird, like maybe go for like a Mortal Push, less common. They do have a Sentry on the way.
Yeah.
But maybe the Sentry is to force field off the third from the main base, I think a Prism makes a lot of sense, but to just build observers and take a third, you're really letting the Zerg do whatever they want if you do that.
The Sentry accompanied by the Robotech is just really interesting for me. Sometimes it brings to mind like a strategy where you're talking about kind of locking a player out of their main and natural. I don't know if that's what you were alluding to, but yeah, without the Phoenix, it's really risky because you don't have the ability to make sure that there are not overlords in position.
Yep.
Did they manage to get a scout on the later speed? Because they could move out with a Stalker and try to, dispel the Overlords and get them out of the way.
Don't seem to be aware of too much. I mean, the lair is almost done. No evolution chambers, no roach warrens. So with Link Speed coming in, they already went Hydra's last game. They went double Hydra Den, which means, to me, that they probably already in their practice have shown that they really like playing with Hydras if they can get up to them very quickly. So I'm expecting Hydraless Den. However, this Prism should be able to hit way before that comes in. Oh boy, wow, actually a Spire. So you know what? Maybe it's because they realize, hey, there's no Phoenix killing our Overlords or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna open Stargate. Well, Mutas are very good.
Yeah, but at the same time, 3 bases. I just saw 10 drones come out, 4 gases go down. They're really investing into this. That is going to make them a little susceptible to this attack. I think it's better, when you see the lack of a third, not necessarily that it's better, but that it's safer to kind of play more middle of the road instead of investing so heavily into this Mutalisk attack. But it will put them in a phenomenal position if they hold. So
yeah, I mean, Blink is on the way, but you don't want to have to defend Mutalisks with Blink Stalkers because that means then your army can never leave your base because those Mutas just wait outside and be like, oh, you want to leave your base? Well, now I'm going to kill you. So this Prism needs to get damage. Yep. Most importantly, it needs to scout this Spire. They need to know what is going on. They need to see what is up. The Depths are going to teleport over. We have Adept Warpins coming in. They're going to drop them into the third base. And
I'm
I mean,
not seeing it, though.
At the same time, it has to be clicking in your head. Why is there nothing here? What is going on? There's no roaches. I don't even see any tech buildings. And now the Adepts come into the main and they see the Spire as it finishes. So
all right, Immortals
are on the way, but they've gotten some work done. 10 drones have died so far.
Yeah, tons of damage, but that damage is going to be quickly reciprocated. 4 Mutalisks on the way. Okay, actually, that's not going to be enough. But I'm expecting to see more as really it's kind of the only out here for NYU. They have to deal damage. Overall, how much did they take?
They lost 11. They lost 11 workers, but you know what? The Zerg is actually still ahead in workers.
Yeah.
So the Mutas can clean up the Prism, and then the Protoss Archon is going to have I would imagine, a very difficult time taking that third base now because of having the Mutalisk bounce between all of their expansions.
I agree. I think talking about how they have to deal damage was maybe a bit off point. I think we were looking at the Mutalisks and that kind of the strategies that we were seeing out of these guys and maybe not recognizing at the same time the lack of economic damage that we saw regardless of the fact that NYU appeared to be entirely unprepared for that attack. And in the end, they're going to be able to counter here. They have a great economy and they have the tech to counter their opponents.
Yeah, so with this second War Prism coming out, I'm feeling like NYU wants to try to keep the pressure up. Or excuse me, RPI wants to try to keep the pressure up.
Their units are split.
Yeah, what you want to do in this scenario, since the muta count hasn't reached a crazy number, so it looks like with Blink finishing, they just want to go for it. And I think if you're NYU, you see this. I don't know why NYU is taking 2 expansions at once. Your Protoss opponent is not taking a third base.
Yeah.
You got to really be careful for this because the mutas, this is what they want to do. Once they get to a high enough number, Stalkers aren't going to be the answer. So you use Guardian Shield, you use a bunch of Blink Stalkers, the War Prism to reinforce. If they were able to overwhelm this army once, I think it's pretty much over for RPI. They need that third base to be able to sustain a long-term push.
Mutas flying across now will get spotted by the Stalkers. And there was a Warp Prism heading up this side. Oh, no, excuse me. It actually joined up with the army. And this is the opportunity for RPI. We'll see if they can manage to get the damage done to close out the game.
Yeah, it looks like they want to go for some sort of base trade here, which I find a bit unusual since it is only 2 bases for the Protoss. They bleed out, actually, a couple of Mutalisks. They're getting Spines in their main, but that's not going to be enough to stop this. So the Mutas run inside, and wow, actually, the potent overcharged pylons actually kill a couple of the Mutalisks as well. All of a sudden...
We're in a very odd position all of a sudden.
Yeah, the drone's trying to run away. Oh, the force fields!
I really attribute
a good amount of them off.
I really attribute this, Nate, to the comment you made about dropping these 2 hatcheries. While hatcheries are great in a base trade, if they had invested those 600 minerals into 6 spine crawlers instead, they would be in a much better position. They could have left those mutas at home and maybe held off this attack entirely.
I mean, they pulled their drones out here, right? So we have the mutas cleaning this up. There is enough for one more round of Warpins for the Protoss Archon, and it's going to be out on the map. So they want to go for the base trade. They want to try to win it here. They have managed to get out a good number of mutas. There are 21 mutas on the map versus 21 Stalkers, and it looks like a few mutas might die here. Knocked back down to 20. So the number of mutas, I guess it is going to be a literal base race, just trying to kill the opposing buildings before they kill yours.
Well, these hatcheries will pay off in that, that regard.
I think build extractors all over the map. That's what you got to do. Those Stalkers just aren't as fast as the Mutalisks, and they've managed to get up to 23 mutas now.
Kind of looking at how this is going to play out in the later stages. of this base race, there's one assimilator in the top left. That is the only probe that escaped the main base. So, I mean, first, I would move that probe to a different location on the map. Probably the bottom right.
Yeah, there's no lings or anything, by the way. So the mutas are their only tool for cleaning up. They don't have a super fast way to get around the map other than spreading out overlords and whatnot. So we'll have to see. Did this probe spot the creep? No. I mean, yeah, I mean, these Protoss units, they destroy buildings pretty fast. Actually, some of those drones need to get out of there. Yeah, they have some placed, pre-positioned tactical drones.
Are the Stalkers going home? I'm surprised to see these buildings left. Oh, excuse me. Those are overlords.
It seems like they're not 100% sure on where they want to actually go.
Okay.
But they're going to find this base. This is actually pretty good for NYU since this is not their most important base. And they also show where one of their assimilators are.
Meanwhile,
this drone is looking.
And drones continue mining in the top left. Yep. Which, even though the Stalker spots this, okay, they are finally going to pull out of here and actually just kill that Stalker. Nope.
Try to get the wraparound on him.
For the win.
Getting those drones out of there is very, very important. Pretty sick. There's still this Stalker here.
I'm a little worried about NYU. Do they have drones around the map? I see one.
There's one on the southwest side. They're going to build an extractor, but, you know, of course, that timer is going to start as soon as the last hatchery is dead. I really feel like they should have gotten these drones out of here and tried to spread them out and build extractors everywhere.
I completely agree.
The thing is, by the time the hatchery and the Nexus are both going to be dead, very similar timing to each other. So now the timer is running. So that last extractor... Okay, there's two last extractors.
I think RPI has got this.
There's one more drone. Oh, it gets found.
Yeah, these Mutalisks, you need to stop.
Have to go from one side of the map to the other, and so does the Protoss, but...
I think your best bet is to kill the Stalkers at this point. Try to pick them. They have been splitting up here and there. There's no way they win this base race, right?
This is really rough. Like, they're going to split the Mutas, try to kill both at once. That's really risky because there's some Stalkers here, so split Mutas versus split Stalkers. They have this coming over. Oh my god. Okay, so this is it. It's a literal base race. Can they get to them before they get to them?
This is the final
This
extractor.
Is one of those weird times where you're like, man, the simulators have a lot more health than extractors. Is it going to make the difference here? No.
NYU.
They can't do it.
Wait, assimilator in the top, 12 o'clock position, gonna go down.
Oh, okay. So it's just started. The Mutas are gonna head over there now. It's the last building, but they're not.
Stalkers are intercepting.
They can't reach the extractor. They can't get to the extractor in time.
No way. It's not gonna happen. 50 minerals remaining. That's not enough to build an assimilator. NYU is gonna take this. The Stalkers did not head straight for the extractor.
Wow. So they desperately tried to kill that extractor in time, but they're just too late. They were so close. They were one blink length away. If they had started moving across the map just a second faster.
Well, and they didn't head right to that position, right? They kind of moved there to intercept, and it almost worked, but...
Wow. What a game. That was quite a game. I don't know. I
just had like a flashback to your commentary at DreamHack. With
I've casted a few of these types of games before. Man. That was
also a ZVP, you know.
That was what an interesting game that we had here going into this base trade. Some questionable decision making, but I guess maybe we're thinking that spreading themselves out would work better than trying to put all their chips into the spine crawler basket. But man, what just an absolutely insane game that we had here with the Muta versus Blink Stalker base race. Those two Immortals also super crucial in killing the buildings as quickly as they were able to.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the flip side of that, the Mutalisks taking an absolute decade.
Really smart to split them too. I think that's an easy mistake to make. Like I feel like that's the kind of mistake that like someone who hasn't been in this situation a lot of times would make, where they're like, okay, send all the Mutas, kill one assimilator, then kill the other. But realizing, okay, they're on opposite sides of the map. Like they can split up and kill both of ours before we can kill theirs. So
that's a really good point. And I think to highlight that further, just the reason you do that is you spend most of the time flying and not actually attacking.
Yeah.
So that's really. If you're ever in that position, that's what you want to think about, is the time it takes you to get to the base versus how long it takes to kill a structure.
They had enough Mutas to kill both. That's still really, really, really crazy to think about, because especially if they had been caught off guard. Like if they had left Stalkers at one of those assimilators, you know, if you went for like a YOLO move, you're like, I'll leave everything to defend one of them, and then you do manage to kill a couple of those Mutalisks, suddenly you can kind of just maybe move your Immortals out or do something else super crazy. I don't know. But man, very impressed with that game. And now it goes back. They're going back to playing Zerg now, our RPI team. So it will be a ZVZ for game number 3 as we are now loading into All Arena.
Reset, man.
Oh.
You were talking about it earlier. If you wind up down 0-2, you kind of get this mental reset, and now that's exactly what we're going to see happen. Will it make the difference that they need, you know?
I still just have a smile on my face thinking about the way that last game went out.
It was cool.
That was just so interesting. We are loaded into Arena. In the top left, we have the blue Zerg Archon up 2-0 in this best of 5. We have NYU, represented by Call Me Steve and Grasscutter.
And in the bottom left here on Arena, we have Sherlock and Dark Zero from RPI.
And they have opened with a very fast Zergling speed into spawning pool, so they are looking to
really macro it up.
Well, in the macro sense of getting a lot of Zerglings early on, I can certainly see that.
I'm really macro with my Zergling play.
Huh.
No, there's an opportunity there, but I missed it.
That's the beauty of the English language, though, is that you can spin almost anything to mean anything under the right context. Be like, well, you know what? I am a macro player. I have a very large portfolio of Zergling attacks in the early game and Baneling busts. Suddenly, you sound, a little more respectable. Whereas we have that hatch first for the other team.
Well, we'll see what kind of damage this is going to get done. The spawning pool did come after the gas, which is definitely more common in ZVZ. We typically do see these quicker gases nowadays. And the Zerglings are on the way. And I think the questions you start to run into here is, well, are they going to attack the hatchery or are they going to go into the base? That's always my favorite call. Of course, if you decide to go inside, it tends to be more macro-oriented. But I think against 2 players, it may be better to go for the hatch. It's really tough. It's unexplored territory, right? What are your thoughts?
I mean, you make a really good point, actually, being able to divide sort of like the multitasking in terms of that panic mode defense, because they're going to start 6 lings in their main. They're going to start their queen. They'll have 1 larva on this hatch when it finishes, and they'll start lings from there too. So, it's such a dicey spot to be in, because it's an even number of Zerglings, but the last 2, these coming over, are going to tip the scales a little bit now. And I think killing the hatch, this is a good choice, because if your opponent knows what they're doing, they're going to build lings and nothing but lings to try to stop you from killing them directly. So this was a nice play. What is surprising to me is that they're going for a Baneling nest. They did not expand behind this. This isn't one of those, now we're ahead and we have speed. It's one of those, we knocked you back. Now we're gonna try to put the boot down on you, and this is a really smart call to get this spine crawler, because they're like, okay, well, you didn't build a hatchery behind this. There's really only one thing you're going to be doing if you're not going to get a hatchery after you kill ours.
And although Lenok may have won against DRG with such a build as this, I think these spine crawlers are tipping my opinion in the favor of NYU here. We'll see. As RPI is making their way up the ramp, and these Banelings, there's 2 of them. There's 2 spines. Yeah, that's not good odds.
The spines being able to snipe the Banelings, having 2 of these to insta-kill those Banelings are so important, because that really is everything. And now they are expanding behind this. Now they're realizing, okay, you know what? We probably can't kill them with this defensive setup that we have. So let's just get ready to do something else. Now these Lings are going to move in. They're trying to see, okay, can we clear this out? Can we open up an opportunity here as these Banelings run home? And seeing this for NYU is really important. They're like, okay, well, you block this off, but now the focus is, can they get this base without dying? Because there's still a lot of Banelings and Lings here for RPI. Yeah. They still could attack if they wanted to. And now these queens are actually really exposed. So I'm quite concerned because of the lack of a Baneling nest for NYU. They might just lose this hatchery and their queens, and that's going to force the Lings to come up, and then the Banelings might be able to get those.
All right, this is a really committed engagement. I'm not the biggest fan of it, and it looks like RPI not going to be able to break through there.
That was a really good defense. I think it was the queens target firing the Banelings.
That helped certainly a lot. I particularly just felt like there was a great line there from NYU where they had queens interdispersed with Zerglings. Yeah. There was no ability for those Lings to kind of focus on queens.
That's true. That helps naturally spread out the Lings as well against the opposing Banelings. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, they send your Lings, you send your Lings, then their Banelings kill yours because you don't have any Banelings. And now they do have a Baneling, and they can move these spine crawlers down. So what do we have for RPI? Overall worker count is actually still favoring NYU. So they're in an okay spot, economically speaking. The hatch, it'll be done later than theirs, but it's a matter of a couple of larvae here and there. So at the best, I think at worst, it's even in terms of that. So evolution chamber.
I think where we might see the difference is kind of in like the middle stages of the game. You're talking about the Evo chamber that's complete here for NYU.
Yeah.
They've also got 2 spine crawlers, and they're up. Is it still 2 queens? No, second queen just spawned for RPI, but you know they have a 1 queen advantage with a lot more energy. They have the extra 2 spines in the Evo chamber, and this is all going to amount to an advantage later. You know, right now none of that really means anything. Nice connection there. Is going to deny the scout, but overall, I give a slight advantage here to NYU, I think, even though the hatch was a bit later, just because they have all this extra stuff that's going to pay off.
Yeah, and they don't need to invest as much into units to defend follow-up wise as well, because they had 2 spine crawlers. So that's a nice little position from the BN. That +1 attack is really big. I'm expecting them to start their lair soon then as well, so that they can complement this with something like Roach Speed. I'm a little bit curious about that. We already have a Roach Warrant for RPI. They're going into lair, so I do like everything that I am seeing so far. But,
all right.
No third base or lair from NYU is making me... I'm just going to build units really soon and try to attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. A Roach Bane all in. It is possible. 4 Overlords on the way. If we see like a 5th or a 6-1 queued up here, they've pulled 350 gas already. And that will hit really nicely with this +1 upgrade. And they can just hit with a huge all-in about a minute and a half. And it would be so powerful. And with the lack of spines, you know, there's only 1 here for RPI, and then going to lair tech, and they haven't gotten to that yet. No scouting. Almost no scouting since that hatchery was completed. I'm really scared here for RPI. This is going to be a super strong attack coming out of NYU, and it might be game ending.
Yep, they're going to start pushing across the map with everything that they have. Even these queens are coming along for the ride. Of course, that +2 allows them to not only kill the roaches in a volley or 2 less, but also dumps and 2-shot those zerglings that might also be used for defending against a push like this. So this is going to be really difficult. The Spire is on the way.
That is not the decision you need to make at this stage.
You need units right now, RPI.
They have a Roach Warrant. They can make roaches. They are supply blocked, though, Nate, and it is just looking more and more dire for RPI. They're going to need incredible micro to be able to hold this attack, and the drones should come off very early before they lose too many roaches.
Yeah, this is a really tough spot to be in. The roaches are going to start to push up the ramp. They've got their queens here to back them up, using those transfuses beautifully on these roaches to keep them alive. That Spire not even halfway done. No mutas to save the day here for RPI as NYU continues to step forward. This spine crawler, that static defense is going to be knocked down. Ever so crucial. More transfuses landing. And these roaches, man, they are just out-muscling the roaches of RPI.
Really fun to see engagements like this. It's going to continue to be scrappy. RPI, though, is in a tough position. But 2 spine crawlers are about to complete, so there's some kind of reconciliation here. But the drones now just getting pulled, and I feel like this is just a little bit too late. RPI, what do they have behind this? There's 2 roaches on the way. I guess they're going to make some Mutalisks?
Yeah, I mean, they will be able to build a few Mutalisks, but they don't have enough minerals to spend all of their gas, and it's just more and more pain that they're going to take on the back end of this. And the most important thing for NYU to do is realize what's going on. Oh, actually, never mind. RPI just started to build a bunch of roaches, so they spent all their larvae on roaches now. I think they panicked a little bit here. The mutas are not going to come out, and that's... Oh, boy. I don't know.
This is too much. This is another 10, 12 roaches that just walked into the fight, and there's 6 on the way for RPI. Drones get pulled off the line, but they have lost far too much at this point. And a really, really cool snap decision out of NYU after being cheesed and realizing, hey, we have spines. It looks like we can really hunker down. Now they opt, hey, let's go completely against what RPI is expecting, capitalize on their lack of scouting, and take this game nice and early.
That was really, really well played here. They pulled their drones. Wow.
I love it.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Wow.
Is that BM or is that just having a blast? I don't know, but I do know that NYU takes a 3-0 with style.
They pulled the drones.
That was great, man.
I mean, I've seen all sorts of BM, but I guess on Arena, it's just such a short rush distance. If you want to pull your drones to BM your opponent, you can. I have never seen that. I have not seen the BM drone pull in a ZVZ when you beat them on Arena after they cheese you and fail. That's some next level play. That
you almost look a little teary. Like I see your eyes kind of bringing it together.
I've got nothing but smiles for especially these last 2 games. Like, you know, you brought it. You mentioned it perfectly. They have remained composed when this attack comes up, and then they just said, "All right, let's use that." Use those spines, get our upgrade, and just go kill them. And I'm surprised they didn't try to squeeze out mutas. I don't think mutas would have stopped the roaches from still killing a lot of stuff. but I guess at this point it really wasn't much they could do anyway.
Yeah. I think if they had... I don't think it would have been enough by itself, but it would have been a lot closer if they had pulled the drones in the early stages of that fight. Ultimately, they ended up not needing that gas. Those are really tough decisions, but I just look at the 500 gas that they have in the late stages of this game, and there were a lot of factors working against them for sure. I think the biggest one being a lack of scouting.
Because the thing is, if they were still going to build that many roaches instead of ever getting mutalisks, then they could have spent their gas earlier on roaches earlier, or they could have turned some of those roaches into ravagers. You know what I mean? Like they had they had some supply open after the initial block, and then they were waiting for the Spire, but then at the last second they're like, you know what? Mutas aren't going to do it. But then, well, you've been sitting on 300-400 minerals, 500 gas for a while. That might have been enough ravagers to just push them away from the ramp. So 3-0 win there for NYU as they get another victory here on the Tespa Collegiate Series. Casted those guys quite a few times. Awesome to see them be so successful. We're going to go to a short break before we get into our last best of 5 of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. You're watching the StarCraft 2 Tespa Collegiate Series.